All right, it is 6:10 p.m. I'm calling to order this regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Bandera. Councilman Hasty, Councilman Morris, Councilman Russ, Councilman Kuntz are present in person. Mayor Pro Tem Gibson is attending via Zoom. City Administrator David Jordan is via Zoom. City Secretary Jill Shelton is also attending via Zoom. The City Treasurer is present. City Marshal is present. Our City Attorney, Dan Santee, is also present for this meeting. Keely Hansen is sitting in and doing the job of the City Secretary, taking all the notes and all that good stuff. Item 2 is the invocation and pledge of allegiance. If you would rise, I would ask Will at this time to lead us in prayer.
Most gracious and loving Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us all together this evening. Lord, we ask that you'd also get everyone home again safely. Lord, we thank you for this beautiful day we've had and the promise of cooler weather in the future. Lord, we ask for your blessings upon the Bandera City Council, upon our great state, upon our great country. Most of all, Lord, we'd like to thank you for your Son who died upon the cross for our many sins. Lord, please keep us and protect us and take us home safely this evening. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, folks. Item 3 is visitors to be heard. Did anyone sign up? Okay. Item 4 is the consent agenda, approval of minutes from the September 7, 2021 meeting. Darcy.
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from the September 7th, 2021 meeting.
Thank you. Jerry?
I'll second that.
All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. At this point, council, because of time constraints, they are on a very limited schedule and they must attend these different functions on their agenda in order to get credit for the scholarship. They are on all expense paid. That being said, I would ask respectfully that we could skip down to item 6D, which is discussion on the fiscal year 2021-22 utility rates. And that is back here on that is page 100 of your packet. No, it is page 99 of your packet. Or 98 of your packet if you want to talk garbage please.
I wrote down 97.
It's 97. That's the beginning of the utility rates. Page 97.
97?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, David, you want to talk to us about your recommendations?
Yes, ma'am. Council asked us to take a look at the rates and make a recommendation. I believe in 2019 we had a rate study done, and there were 3 different options of a rate increase. One was like 23%, the other was 30-some%, and the third one was 43%. The council at that time decided not to raise rates at all. After looking at the price increase, talking to the Public Works acting department lead, Terry, and looking at the price of products on the market right now, especially due to the increase of COVID and so forth, I recommended a 10%, for the City Council to consider a 10% increase on the rates across the board. The packet reflects the old rate and the 10% increase on the new rate if it's approved. And also at the bottom, I asked Keely to hand out paperwork regarding prices of equipment for Public Works and the increase on that.
The prices of equipment he's referencing are going to be in the fee schedule, not the utility
Yeah, that's in the
rate
fee schedule, David. We'll get to that one here in the next agenda item.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay, good.
So the fee schedule also, the council asked that the numbers, or it was asked that the numbers be rounded off to whole numbers, so we did that. And the 10% increase recommendation is calculated in there also.
Thank you.
Ma'am.
Council?
Rebecca has a comment.
Rebecca?
Thank you. In the past, we were told that we could not change the, rates in the ETJ without bringing all the rates, to this, what am I, do you guys know what I'm talking about? Dan, do you know what I'm talking about?
So, if you're talking about utility rates,
Yeah.
is that what you're referring to? So when you change the rates in the ETJ, you just have different notification requirements that you have for your customers who are not city residents but are within your CCN and are ratepayers. They get notice they have a different right of appeal that goes to the PUC. That's the only instance that the PUC has any jurisdiction over rates for a municipality. That's the only thing I'm aware of.
Thank you.
That's probably what I was thinking.
And it's after the fact. So we need to, if you make a change to their rates, we have to send out individual notice to every ratepayer that's not within the city.
And would it then require a public hearing on their part?
No, you've already had, I'm assuming you've had public hearings on your rates and your proposed rates in conjunction with your budget hearings. That was a question I had for Jill when I saw this on the agenda.
We have not advertised a set rate increase. We've advertised the fact that we've been considering rate increases, and we've gotten no response to that consideration of rate increases. But to my knowledge, we have not stated that we are doing it a specified percentage.
Jerry?
The first would be tonight, that we're even looking at this.
Rebecca?
If I'm hearing Dan correctly, we have to post and hold a public hearing. So if that's the case, then I think we need to follow that process. This is not gonna fall in line with our budget calendar, and we'll have to come back and make a budget adjustment in the event that we raise those rates. Am I correct there?
You can do that. That's correct.
Because we have to post and hold a public hearing for public comment, correct?
You should, yes. Now, again, in the past, the recommendation has been that you make your changes to your fee schedule and your rates in conjunction with your budget, but yes, if these have not been included in the public hearings you've had up to this point, then you should have those public hearings, at least one, before you change your rates.
Tony?
So we've stated that we've considered it, rate increases. We have not specified the actual rate
Yeah, we
increase,
need-
and that does make a difference.
That does make a
Okay,
difference.
I'm only asking
Yes,
that, okay.
So if it's decided, Mayor, another question, please.
Go ahead.
Dan, so if it's decided tonight by City Council that they do want to raise the rates, whether it's 10%, 5%, whatever it is, that step has to be first, correct? And then that public hearing,
That's correct.
and,
Right.
okay. So tonight it's established, the council will establish if they want to raise rates, or if they don't want to raise rates, or if they do, to what level, and then it'll be announced to the public. I'll say we still have time between now and the end of the budget to have a public hearing, add that with the other public hearings, and still proceed and still be on time and in line with the budget, have it passed by September 30th.
David, we've only got 9 days. There's not time to post a public hearing.
Right.
So there will be no
We
budget.
can put it next week, meeting on the 30th.
If we put it in the paper on this week.
Tomorrow, or,
On the-
we can't do
Well, we'd have to
tomorrow.
have it at like 9 o'clock in the morning because we have to prepare the budget and file it before 5 p.m.
Okay, well, let's just focus on rate increases, and then we'll focus on a calendar of what it takes to do that. So, how about that? Step one.
Suits me, but I think at this point, we're not gonna have time to do anything except decide if you want to and then proceed and then make a budget adjustment.
I agree with that.
Yes, ma'am, this was forwarded for y'all's consideration, whether you want to or not. Recommendation was up to 10%.
Thank you.
So daily operations and maintenance costs continue to go up and will continue to go up. And due to the backflow of supplies and so forth, the price of supplies and maintenance has risen.
Thank you. Darcy, you had your hand up?
Yes, so as y'all know, and anybody that pays attention, I never want to go up on anything or ask anybody to pay more, and it comes out of my pocket too, because I live here too, and I'm also poor. So, but I think we do need to go up. I think we have to, and looking at what the old rates are and what the new rates are, even though 10% can be a lot depending on what you're looking at, what the size of the numbers are. As far as residential goes, it's not that big of an increase. Now when you get to commercial and stuff like that, I know it could be a lot more. But when you're looking at the old rate being, for the base rate of water being $20.67, adding the 10% change, and then that would make the new rate $22.74. That's not, gonna sizably change anybody's residential water bill. And I have a whole lot less heartburn about that than paying my favorite $2 street repair fee on my utility account. So,
Thank you.
Rebecca has her hand up.
Rebecca?
Thank you. I would be curious to know how everyone else would feel about the consumption rates adjusting differently to more aggressively have a conservation model. So in other words, I guess what I'm trying to say is like your 2001 gallon to 5,000 gallon consumption rate per 1,000 gallons, that we could increase that by 15%, and then up from there in each one of those tiers. And again, that just makes our rate structure reflect to reward conservation.
Darcy?
I see where you're going, Rebecca, and I respect it. However, I will say that as somebody that lives in a home by myself, that I shouldn't necessarily be rewarded because I live by myself and have a lower rate than somebody that is married and has 2 kids, and I don't want to saddle them with a higher rate while they're trying to feed 2 kids, or 4 kids, whatever their choice may be. So I would be against that, just because I don't want to saddle families with a higher bill that maybe couldn't afford it, when as a single person or somebody that lives by myself that I could.
Thank you. Sharon, you had your hand up?
Yeah. Regardless of us raising it or not, I know that 10% jump overnight on the commercial rates is really going to amount to a hardship for some of these businesses. We just can't normally adjust quick enough to compensate for that big of an increase all at once, especially. And we did some juggling on the consumption rates last year. I thought, correct me if I'm wrong, Rebecca.
Y'all added another tier.
Tier.
So
Residential side.
I'm not sure what we would accomplish by moving these back and forth. But like I say, one of my bigger concerns is on the commercial side, because they get hit hard to begin with. So I'm against any rate increases, especially when we're also talking about salary increases. I just can't justify that to the taxpayers, that we're gonna go up on our utilities and yet we're gonna give huge raises to everybody, pretty much in the city. Just doesn't make sense as a business.
Darcy?
I know, well, I'm not gonna try to get into any type of argument, but a 5% COLA increase or even a merit increase isn't a huge raise. And we're talking about half of a 10% increase, and we do have water infrastructure that we're trying to do, so, that's how I justify it. I know I'm not running for re-election right now, so I don't have to say stuff like that for the paper. But we have the 10% that we need to increase on for the water and sewer rates, and a 5% raise for our staff shouldn't
Well,
be considered on that.
Stick with utility rates right here. Yes, Jerry?
I'd like to say that last year was not an election year and we didn't vote for the increase. I don't appreciate personal attacks, not necessary. Keep the business. You know, I am concerned because I know that 10% for commercial rates is extremely significant. I know because I have a business, okay? And I use a ton of water, all right? So don't go with personal attacks. Go with a
Okay.
better idea, okay?
Mayor, Rebecca has her hand raised. Rebecca.
Yes, Rebecca.
Thank you. I just feel like, especially with that we spent the time and energy and the money having this utility rate study prepared for us. The recommendation was a 23% increase that year, and we didn't want to make that kind of jump. Every expert in the industry will echo that you have to raise rates annually in a structured fashion, because that's the cost of the system. Now, our citizens have a council and have had councils that have been very aggressively seeking funding for projects, and going after those. So we're doing our part to offset the cost so that it's not all on the citizen for the improvements that need to occur for not just for operation, but for the quality of the product. And to me, it's an absolute have to. It's not even a choice. And 10% is not a huge jump compared to what was recommended to pay for our system.
So if I could make a point just briefly, that your system extends beyond your city. So when you don't have a rate that supports the cost of delivering the service, your taxpayers in the city are subsidizing the delivery of the service to the ratepayers outside the city. So when they talk about a 20% increase in your rates, they're trying to have the cost recovery of providing the service, period. The pipes in the ground, getting the water transported, the electrical cost, all the manpower, that's all a cost of service. So if that utility doesn't pay its own way, it's subsidized by the ad valorem taxes because the system is still going to be paid for.
And on that very point, in our tax rate, our M&O, our maintenance and operation rate is 0.39 something or other in our greater picture of our tax levy this year. Jerry, you had your hand up?
It's okay.
Mayor, when I speak.
Oh, yes, David, of course. Don't you-
Yes, ma'am. I looked at, as I stated earlier, I looked at that rate study that was done. I studied it very closely. Looked at the 3 tiers that they recommended, and I'm very well the fact that the previous councils are hesitant to raise taxes or increase the rates. But this is, we're not technically paying for the system right now. We're trying to maintain the system at this rate due to the previous years of no tax increase. We're kind of upside down almost on, if we hit with a 23% increase as they recommended last time, that would have been a great big punch in the gut for a lot of people. And they gave that increase at tier 1 and tier 2, 23, 33, 43% because due to their calculation as a business and running the city, providing the most valuable resource, which is our water, we have to be able to provide top quality service and products to be able to maintain that system. And right now, we're behind. So I was very aware. I thought about it long and hard. And that's why I recommended the 10% versus, the 23%. No, what's always been before you already. So obviously it's the pleasure of the council, but that's why that was my thought process, bringing a 10% increase.
Thank you, David.
Yep.
Anything else, council? Yes, Tony?
I would 100% agree with David. The only thing I would have added was we're trying to maintain a neglected system. And the system has been neglected for quite some time, and the Band-Aids aren't working. So we need to be able to fix it and fix it right. So
Rebecca had something.
Rebecca?
Thank you. On this agenda item, we're also considering the garbage rates as a part of the utility, because we haven't discussed that. And I just wanted to comment or ask that, do those increases reflect Republic's increases? Is that all that?
It does indeed.
David has
David had his
something
hand
there.
up. David's got his hand
Yes,
up.
David?
Oh, yes, ma'am, I was just asking, yes, it includes the increase, and also, we have a new, regional person for Republic who desires to come in and speak with the council, once again regarding the option of, potential recycling. So,
Oh, good.
yes, so, that's at the pleasure of the council, of course. This rate increase was in the contract that was, negotiated by the city of Republic, prior to me getting here, and it's 3.4% was already added into that, agreement.
Thank you.
Mayor, Rebecca has her hand up again.
Rebecca?
May I make a motion, Mayor?
You may.
I'd like to move to approve the recommended increased utility rates.
Thank you. Tony, second. Further discussion? All in favor? Darcy, Christine, Tony, and Rebecca are in favor. Those opposed? Jerry is opposed. Motion passes. Thank you, Rebecca. Let's move on quickly to item E, discussion of the fee schedule. I believe that, Keely, you had made notes on the fee schedule, particularly about the disconnect fee that was
Yes,
discussed.
I wanted to provide council some clarification on the process that we have as utility clerks in the office with regard to occupant changes and disconnections and reconnections. I spelled it out for y'all in that. I don't feel like I should need to go through it again for you guys, unless you have some specific questions for me. I don't mind changing the fees, it doesn't bother me, don't charge a fee, do charge a fee. I just wanted to provide some clarification that it's not as simple as your name just gets put on an account. There is work involved. We also, someone might disconnect their account. 2 days later, the new person comes in and it's no longer a transfer. It's someone's already gone out there twice. We don't know. It just depends on when paperwork comes in. That's just, I wanted to give some clarification for you guys on that.
Thank you. Tony?
So as we discussed before, and I know you weren't here, I don't think, when we were there, but a transfer would be when one person, the new person comes in and the utilities are still on, and that person says, I'm taking over this utility, period. And so there would be one reading of the meter, you'd put that number in 2 accounts, and if the new account didn't have an account, you'd create one, and the old one would get closed out, or that account would get closed out. Correct.
Yes. The only, I say issue is a strong word. We also require documentation from the person who is closing the account. Sometimes that comes in first. So my recommendation to council is if you don't want to have someone pay to close their utilities, that's fine. It is going to be a more efficient process to disregard a disconnection fee across the board and just have the new person pay the connection fee regardless. And have that person, that'd be the only fee that's charged, for whether it's been a transfer or someone disconnects and reconnects. It gets more complicated when we don't have all the paperwork at the same time to make that transfer seamless. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Sort of.
But if we do away with the disconnect fee, those accounts that are delinquent and have to be cut off, we would still need to impose
Now that could be, we could again change the name of the fee if that's a delinquent account fee or a cutoff fee, not a disconnection fee. If you come in and provide us paperwork, I'm moving out of the city, I need to disconnect my water on October 31st, great, awesome. If you are delinquent, you are added a fee because now we have to process you in a different way, we have to go cut your water off, we have to send out final bills, it's a whole different thing. That's it, if you want to change the name of the fee, that's fine.
Like
It's-
termination fee instead
Yes,
of
that'll work.
disconnect fee. Termination, that's like a termination of the account,
Yes.
that's a termination fee.
Right. I just was comparing our process to the process of other utilities that do the same thing. And I don't pretend to know what they require as far as who's losing the account versus gaining the account in a transfer situation. Because at no time when I was transferring all of the accounts, did they even ask me the old account. It's like, they just, I mean, when I did the
Okay.
electric, when I did the, yeah, so, I mean, if that's our process, that's, I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, cause verification is, in a world of today, is never a bad thing. But, yeah, I don't think overcomplicating it.
Okay, your particular situation, it just ran smoothly. Hey, I'm out of here, hey, here I am. Not every situation, as she's saying, works like that.
I agree, and the definition in our code for a transfer is that, now what we put behind that is something else, because, I mean, obviously there's gonna be different scenarios, but it states one address, two people, transferring one person, going to another. It doesn't say anything about time frame. It doesn't say that they have to, it has to be notified by one or the other. It doesn't even say there's a fee involved. It just says that's the definition. And nowhere else in our code does it say anything about transfer service. And so this is just going to close the gap for whatever we decide to do.
Would not maybe adding words like interruption of service, if there's no interruption of service, like you didn't call and say, turn it off before she called and said, let's turn it on. If there was no interruption of service, then that could be a transfer. If there was ever an interruption of service, then that would be a new account, disconnect, reconnect.
Right, and that's how I see it, but it sounds like they want confirmation from the people that you're removing it from and putting it to make sure that that's what.
Sometimes it's seamless. Sometimes we get all the paperwork in at the same time. It's great. There are times when there's not supposed to be an interruption of service, and yet there is because of the way we get the paperwork. We get a disconnect notice from someone, we're moving out, we issue that work order for that day. And if it gets turned off before someone comes in that same day and says, I need utilities here.
Then I would validate that is a disconnect, and because they did not do their due diligence to make it a transfer. They're disconnecting and somebody else is coming in and adding it, and that those two people aren't talking, they should have their own fees.
Fine with me.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, it's not a transfer service. I mean, it's a one person disconnects and the other person,
I
yeah.
think that's amending
I
our.
agree with
our-
that. I agree with that. I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
We'll work on amending the ordinance and adding the interruption of service language, and also that the fee is on file with the city hall like we do with all of our ordinances that have fees. So we'll work on giving it a name and adding it to the fee schedule and working on amending the
Yeah, and
ordinance.
if they're already filling something out, if there's a transfer where it says, if you want a signature of the person that's turning it off and then maybe it could be on the same form, and then when they turn it in, then you've got everything you need. That's just a suggestion, not a direction.
I'll look into it.
By the way.
Yeah.
Also, I think, Keely, you had a comment on the vendor fees that you wanted to express to
Yes.
council.
Vendor permits have been an issue for me my entire career here. It has been a long process to get where we are now. I ran some numbers for you guys, and basically, as of 2021, we are averaging about $5.46 in revenue from people. That is not a profit, and when it comes to crunching numbers. That is because we do not charge handmade or homegrown vendors for fees. Now, I am all about making your own products and getting them out there and being an entrepreneur and selling your stuff. I do the same thing myself. But it is not cost effective for the city to not charge these people at all. I mean, it's just not there. We do a lot, I've already done 200 and some odd permits this year alone, and a third of them have paid, and it just doesn't work out in the numbers. There's lots of times where I have conversations with people, they're brand new, they don't have to pay, and there's an hour of my time, and we have nothing for it. It just, yeah.
I think it was mentioned too that there's a lot of other things that go into it. There's specific card stock so that it lasts. Like if they buy multiple months, then you want to give them quality something so that they'll have it and they can display it. It's not going to evaporate in the rain. And so there is a cost to the city, whether it's a no cost permit or not. I mean, we do put a lot of work behind it and a lot of supplies. So I think that should also be considered. I don't know how you came up with the number, but is that like that?
So those are our fees that we have been charging historically. I didn't think we needed to change them much. I only added that the 72-hour is actually, it goes from $25 to $30 to make it a little more worth our time and their time as well. When it kind of evens out for monthly, it was just a $5 increase on the 72-hour weekends type permit, but then just leave the daily 15 as historic as we have before. I also think Rebecca had a comment she wanted to make.
Rebecca?
Thank you, Keely. Yes, Mayor, thank you. When we discussed this last, Keely, I can't remember if you were at that meeting with us or not, but one of the things that we had mentioned that we wanted to change with this was to add the Bandera Farmers Market as a free, to not have a fee for that permit, or for those vendors that are here, the local farmers, to continue that. And then I thought we needed to check on the cottage goods that we were actually, in fact, allowed to charge them a permit.
Okay, so
I think it's in the ordinance, so if this is going to require an ordinance amendment, we've got to address that.
yes. The first point, as far as the farmers market goes, we have historically never issued permits for them at all. That would continue to be the same. Evidently, they have an agreement with the city. I've never issued them permits in 4 years since I've been here. So they would continue to be.
Can you just indicate that then in this, that's what we had said in the meeting, that we were gonna indicate that here.
Okay, and then cottage goods, from what I can find in my research, is cottage, it only applies to foods. And that they're not required to get a state health certificate through a state health inspector for baked goods, things you can do at home. There's actually a list online that we have. That's all the information I could find on it, but we can still ask them to pay city permit fees. We just can't require them to get a state health certificate.
Okay, thank you, Keely.
One of the things that I find disturbing, and when I go to some of these market days, is we've got these folks who have their no-cost permit because they make homemade earrings, and you get to their booth, and they're selling purses made in Mexico. So how is this a craft? You know, how could they be permit-free if they've got it, you know, out of sight, out of mind on Saturday over there on the courthouse lawn?
And that's another issue as well that I didn't honestly even think of.
And that would increase the $5.46, a tremendous ordeal if we had to hold these people to what they tell us.
I'm just saying, I just find
That would take our $5 away right away.
The only information that I give is what they write down, and if they tell me that it's handmade and homegrown, and that's what they put on the application, that's all I know.
Right.
I'm not going over there and verifying on Saturday if that's the case or not. So yeah, that's another reason that.
Code enforcement.
Okay.
Adults to do it.
So should we, excuse me, Mayor,
Yes, David, go ahead.
hate to be the inspection police, but should we, the people that are under that category is cottage industry, should they be required to provide a list of their products? I mean, or either that or somebody from the city has to go over there, which is not a good look, and I wouldn't recommend, but should they be required to provide an itemized list of what they're going to be selling over there? Because if they are, in fact, selling purses from wherever and don't meet category that they're claiming they're under, then they're under false pretenses and they should be charged like everybody else. It's my opinion.
Thank you, David. Tony?
Maybe we go the other way, David. I like the way you're thinking, but maybe we go the other way, that we supply them a list of things that they can sell underneath the cottage goods, no cost permit, because I don't like the word free, no cost permit. And then we do the no cost permit, maybe we already do this, so apologize, but maybe it's a different color. And so that anybody walking through the vendor that has the authority to enforce permits, per se, on a Saturday, would see the color, know the list, and we can have some more fun conversation on
Let's
social
do that
media.
later.
So, I want to clarify though with y'all. So there's cottage goods, which only applies to food, and then there's the handmade, homegrown section of what we're talking about, which is, like, for instance, there's a vendor that does salvage art. She wouldn't fall under cottage foods. I'm a little confused as to why cottage foods is being brought up as something that we need to do in different. Are we going to charge everybody? Are we only charging handmade? I'm kind of confused.
We don't know
as to
the
why.
answer to that last question.
Okay.
So the cottage goods is definitely a factor because that's something that people have in their mind that's not unique to Bandera. That the cottage good is treated differently in other cities. So I think that if people are used to doing farmers market and they're used to a certain way of doing business, then I think we probably ought to consider that here when we're thinking about this. And
That sounds like a workshop item to me, guys, and again, we're running really out of time on the budget, and these things can all be changed
yeah,
at a later
Right.
date. Yes, David? Oh, I thought David said something.
all right. I like the workshop idea, and I think there's some ideas that can be done, implemented to help, like encourage annual permits as opposed to
Oh, I do. Trust me.
yeah, as opposed to maybe we don't do monthly, maybe we don't even offer it monthly.
That's a different conversation for a workshop.
Yeah,
Because
that's what
there's
I'm
a little more. There's more into that than.
But I mean, it's all
just
part of
events.
the balance, the workload, the cost of the overall cost to what I mean, if we're breaking even, it's great. But the fact that people come in at the last minute on Friday when everything's the last minute on Friday, that's not okay. Because that things that are actually really needing to be done in addition to that are we're paying overtime, and so because for lack of planning.
If y'all wanna look on page 104, these are the significant water tap, sewer tap, and meter fees that David and Terry have worked on and put into this fee schedule, along with the hourly fees for installation and equipment. David, you want, yes, Rebecca? Yes, Rebecca?
I'm waiting till you're finished, I'm not trying to interrupt.
Well, I saw you, okay. I'm good. What do you wanna say?
Would you entertain a motion to approve the recommended changes to the fee schedule?
I would.
Well, then I will make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Sure, for discussion at
Darcy, for
least.
discussion, all right.
So they were telling you what about the taps?
Okay, so as you will see on page 104, these prices, the taps, these are some numbers that I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but Terry Bird started working on this as we were first working on the budget, and he came up with those numbers, which we rounded off at council's request. The water meters, these are numbers that Terry Wells brought to me, which I said, hang on, and we'll take it to David. I think, David, you discussed all this with Terry?
Yes, ma'am. Terry and I sat down and discussed this in length. And he brought the increase in supplies now versus a year ago, and we adjusted the prices in accordance. And then he recommended $25 per person and the $50 per hour per person per hour for the installation, and $50 per person, or $50 an hour for the equipment for these type of jobs.
Thank you. Tony?
So it looks like, going through, it just looks like we kind of rounded up. There wasn't a whole lot, there wasn't
Right, that's
more
what-
than $1 change in any of them until you get to water meter install. And I do know that the cost of those had gone up, but everything else seems to be equivalent to what it was last year. There's no change.
Call the vote.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to summarize that for the citizens as well, that it's not, you know, we're not, there wasn't an increase across the board. It looks like it was specific to the water meter install and the cost of that equipment. And supplies, is the word I'm looking for. Thank you.
Yes.
Further discussion? All in favor? All in favor of approving the fee schedule, thank you. All right, do y'all have time to stay for item C? And I know you've requested that we either address this or table it. Yes, Rebecca?
I apologize, but we are going to need to check out of this meeting so that we do not risk jeopardizing our scholarship for the event that we're attending. And I would respectfully ask that we could address the 380 agreement at a different meeting, and I apologize to council. And if you choose not to, that's your choice. But I need to speak for us and get us down to our event that we were required to check into.
Thank you, Rebecca. In a case like that, we'll move back up to the presentations if you guys want to get on to your event so that we can,
Thank you all.
Thank you.
bye.
Bye, have fun.
See you tomorrow. I guess tomorrow, yeah, tomorrow you'll fly back. All right then, council, let's move back up to the top of the agenda because we've got all these folks here from the hotel waiting to present to us. So I would move on to item 5A, presentation of annual report by Best Western Representative Charlize Hilchey and Corey Reed. And I see Jean and
Right.
Jay.
Therese was
Corey,
not
is that
able
here?
to make it, her plane was late, so.
Okay, carry on.
Okay, so on the annual report, we emailed in the requirement showing that we were using the local vendors, that we had the 10 full-time employees, and that we met the requirement on the Bandera appraisal district. And just wanted to see if there's any other questions on that item, on that part of it.
I don't think so. I talked to Shay the other day, and I think the documentation that y'all supplied verifies that you were using local vendors and as much as possible, of course, with COVID and everything else going on, and that your employees are all residents of Bandera County. I think with the exception of one, yeah, that would be you.
I am local.
Yeah, they all say Bandera.
Yeah, I think you meet all the
Yeah, county
requirements.
residents, the list has all Bandera.
Yes, sir.
County residents, yeah.
And council, as we know from previous presentations, previous years, this does not necessarily require council's approval, it's just an FYI for council. And some of the terms of the 380 are predicated on this annual report. Do you have a question?
No, just listening.
Any questions for Jean? Alrighty, let's move on then. Let's have the item B, the presentation of the Best Western Marketing Plan.
There, again, we had emailed in just a very preliminary, we do our marketing plan towards the end of the year. So this, what we submitted was, just something very preliminary, but it's really not, I think according to the agreement, not really due till the end of the year when we actually do our complete marketing plan. And so we wanted to submit something today for the meeting, but, and what we submitted is just showing line items and what we're spending as far as items that would qualify under the hot tax and for promoting Bandera.
Yeah, I saw that. There it is. Page 75.
Thank you for that, because I was on 15. Yeah, me too. Would have been a while.
Usually
Yeah.
while getting there, yeah. So I had a question about this. So you have your sponsorships by your, do you make a donation to the biker rallies, for instance? Do you make $1,000 check to them for the bike rally? Is that how you sponsor?
No, this year we didn't, the only thing that we've sponsored was donating, koozies that are logoed koozies for the upcoming biker rally.
Okay, how is that?
For next year, yes, we intend to sponsor them.
I'm looking at the 2022
Yeah.
projected.
Okay, so yes, we intend to sponsor both biker rallies, and yes, we, plan on giving them a check.
Corey, what kind of training was that where y'all had the wings? I was kind of jealous about that.
That was one of our manager meetings.
Go ahead and hire me.
Council, any comments about the potential marketing plan? And you'll come back to us with a more complete plan at,
Correct, this was just, it was requested by council that you guys had a little bit more time to review and wanted us to submit something earlier. However, and to submit it with our September reports, so we did as you guys asked. However, the reports truly won't be ready until December, and we will give you adequate time to review them in December as well.
I appreciate that. Comment, council? Darcy.
I want to thank y'all for having beautiful facilities over there, and Corey's done a fantastic job through Snowvid, and even when we had our meetings and stuff over there, and some other events that I've attended over there. They've been great, and I haven't heard any complaints at all. So, but Corey's done a great job.
Thank you very much.
All right. Anything else on this presentation of the marketing plan? And we'll
Reserve the right to ask questions later.
we'll chat.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on. Item 6, discussion of possible action on the following items. A is the update on the Best Western 380 agreement, property tax abatement program, and contract requirements. Rebecca asked respectfully that this be postponed. It's up to you, council. Do you want to table this or you want to move on?
I have a question.
Yes.
Is that why our attorney's here as well?
That is for our
Then
attorney.
I would not want to postpone it.
I would concur with him.
Very good. Alrighty then. Dan, you have reached out at the cities, we all talked about, and I think the major issue with the agreement was the Exhibit A. Is that not the completion of the water catchment system, the,
Is this open, or
If
Or do we need to
If
come-
you wanna talk about this, we should go into closed
I
session.
was gonna say, let's get our wits together with our attorney first, and then, cause I'd like some background on what's happened since the last time we talked.
okay,
And
sounds like a
so-
plan to me.
Okay.
So, here I go again. Let me read it for you. So, the City Council of the City of Bandera reserves the right to adjourn into executive session at any time during the course of this meeting to discuss any matter listed. It's also for the Texas Government Code 551071, consultation with attorney. So at 6:59, I'm recessing the regular meeting.
I'm hungry for knowledge.
7:28, I'm reconvening this regular session of the City Council of the City of Bandera. We're on item A, 6A, update on Best Western 380 agreement, property tax abatement program and contract requirements. We had a brief discussion, and I wanted to say to you that I appreciate all the information that you provided for us. It's very detailed, it's very complete. I believe that we need time to actually take a closer look at it. and schedule another meeting in the near future, not to be putting you off or giving you, this is really not an answer one way or another, whether we accept it. I mean, there's nothing to accept, that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying it right, I know I'm not saying it right, but we sure appreciate you being here, Gene.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Is there anything that you guys are looking more in detail at specifically? Or any questions that we can answer on the agreement?
You know, since Rebecca is not here and she had asked us to table this and we decided to go forward with it, I believe it would be in our best interest and your best interest if we had her input before we started on the process. I believe lighting was an issue. I think you and I discussed that. So I think there's a few things that just need to be clarified and addressed on our end.
And has there been a response to the email that was sent out, itemizing it out? No, like,
The attorney's email?
Yeah, I responded.
so I know
via
you responded that you got it, but I didn't know if there was a,
No, we did a
No.
detailed response answering
each of the items from the attorney's
do you
letter.
have that email?
no, none of us have that.
Okay.
And if you could just forward it back to the attorney and then, that would be that would be great.
Yeah, let's just,
And that'll give us something to look at in addition to everything that's provided tonight.
I just want to make sure, were you the attorney?
Yeah, I'm the
Okay,
attorney.
I'll get his contact information and make sure, because I called his office and I sent it, I just want to make sure that I'm sending it.
Okay, very good.
thank you, Sherry. All right, guys, thanks for coming out. Okay, moving on. Item B, discussion and possible action on a request from James McGroarty, owner of 11th Street Cowboy Board, to close the portion of 11th Street between Cypress and Cedar for Friday, October 1, 2021 at 11 a.m. until Sunday, October 3rd, 2021 at 6 a.m. for pedestrian safety and additional parking for the 16th annual Frogs for Freedom Navy SEAL event and Rumble on 11th Street Bike Rally. Tony.
I'd like to make a motion to approve as written.
Thank you. Jerry,
I'll second that.
discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to just make sure, as written, he's got set through October 1st through September 3rd. So it's not quite as written.
No, I was going by the agenda item.
Oh,
The agenda
no.
item says
Oh,
October
well, his
1st.
actual letter, his request does
Well,
not have, it
she
says
read
September.
this. She read
Okay.
this, and
Okay, just
That's
want to make
what
sure we
I'm
know
reading.
that he's got the wrong date on his letter.
Thank you.
silly goose, I'll copy it.
You should just copy it every year and send it back.
Yeah.
Further discussion? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. All right, item C, discussion and possible action on residential versus commercial utility rates for short-term rental properties. This was an administrative decision made, I believe, last year. The question has come up and we've had a workshop on it, or two, actually just talking about short-term rentals in general. This, as I said, this was an administrative decision. I don't know where y'all want to take it or what you want to do with it. Tony, do you want to
I know,
recuse yourself from this
I was
discussion?
kind of waiting for you to pause, just because you knew I was leaving, so I guess I'll excuse myself.
Sure.
I don't understand the reasoning to increase that to commercial rates for these rentals. It just doesn't make sense. We've got the usage, consumption rates, you know. And I think as long as they're falling within these consumption rates, then I don't see why it should be increased. Because what about the places where they're only rented out a month or two? And still, they're only using residential. This isn't like an apartment complex. You still only have, per se, a family in there. So I just think we ought to just leave it the way it is and go by the consumption rates for residential usage.
Before we, Dan, would you, excuse me, we're talking about the residential versus commercial. You said earlier that was a policy decision, that it was not any, there's no legal standing for any of it, or?
Well, okay, so that's not exactly what I said, but it is a policy decision. There's not a, by that I mean it's up to you. You can, you know, if you want to charge one versus the other, but you know, the factors that in our last discussion, right? Last time we were here and we talked about this, staff was going to bring you back examples of how many accounts there were and what the difference to your revenue would be, the difference in usage and what's the difference in revenue.
I asked for that.
If you don't have that, then you don't have the information that you were told you would have in order to make the decision.
Right.
Right, because that's the, you know, I guess that's the neutral information that you're looking for, right? Does it compare? Is the usage similar to typical single-family residential? You know, because that takes into account not just, you know, if you're living by yourself versus a four-person family or whatever, that usage is going to be in a range, right? Mm-hmm. The other thing you don't want to, you know, punish that, you don't want it to be punitive, right? The person who has the one rental unit behind their house, or they choose to have a short-term rental home, paying a higher rate than someone who has a 10-pot apartment, but each person has an individual account. So there's 10 residential accounts and no commercial accounts, potentially. So, you know, it's, to me, you know, it is a policy decision, but policy decisions, you just want to make sure that you're not singling out any particular class of customer and treating them different than other people if the basis for the rate is actually the same, right? If it's single-family residential type.
Right, so my issue is that, and it is targeting the Airbnbs because they are paying hotel tax, they're paying a hot tax, so they are a business. I'm not talking about the person who's got the place in their backyard that they rent out as a short term, because they're not renting as a business. I'm talking about the people who are, and that's what I wanted to see, because it can be a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and they're sleeping 10 people in there. Because they can on a weekend. It says they pack as many bodies as they can. Just because it's a 2-bedroom doesn't mean they're minimizing it to 4 people. And it can be all adults. It could be 2 people, but it can be up to 10 people. So that's why I asked to see the usage on these accounts. That's what I wanted to know. Because if these people are already advertising themselves as a business and promoting themselves as a business, then they're a business.
I think the challenge that comes with that inherently is that if I'm one person and I have one Airbnb or I have a unit that versus me, you know, hey, yeah, if somebody wants to rent it under that, fine, but if somebody shows up and wants to rent it for 6 months, I'm going to rent it to them for 6 months or a month
But
or
if they're
2 months.
advertising
So I
on
don't
VRBO
pay.
as a business and they're paying hot tax, then they're a business.
Which they don't pay though. That's what I'm saying, is that they only pay that hot tax for stays that are shorter than 30 days. They don't
Right.
collect and pay it for
Right.
longer term. But that rate isn't gonna go back and forth when I lease that house for a year
Right.
versus when I lease it for 3 days.
No, I understand that.
And I'm just saying that's the challenge
Yeah.
that staff has, and so they just want
Yeah.
one way or the other. And you can do it either way for this same reason, right? Because you gotta pick, but we gotta pick one.
But I can, and there's far less that go from the short term to the long term. There's far less here. And I probably got 2 sources that manage them that I could say, how many of your 50 units that you manage do you lose to a long-term rental in the year, and get a number. And so there again, that's why I said I'm interested to know the numbers, because if they're advertising as a business, they're a business.
Darcy?
Do we have those numbers?
We do not have those numbers.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes,
I'd
ma'am.
like to make a motion that we table C until we get
The
the
numbers.
information that we requested.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Darcy. Discussion? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Okay, we will table item C. Dan, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you, Dan.
Yell at Tony if you would.
Oh yeah, tell Tony she can come back.
Really, guys?
She's up front.
That's good.
doesn't,
Oh, he was going that way.
still,
Oh, that's extra. That's extra.
I'm just kidding.
I didn't bring my whole thing of notes, minutes, but I'm like, I'm not gonna ask for that. Where's it?
I believe that you had asked for the number of
How many? And
how
then
many,
like,
and
how
I
does that?
asked for the
Yeah, how's that
difference
then?
between,
And
because we
probably
were talking about trash too, like how
Mhm.
much
Yes.
trash they generated.
the trash.
Right.
Alright.
I don't care which.
The way the tables were actually more real over there.
Tony, a motion was made by Darcy and seconded by Jerry to table this item until more information is available for council. It was passed unanimously, so we're gonna move on and put this on the next regular meeting agenda. Item 7, request and announcements. A, request by council to place items on an agenda. We will do again item C. Council, I need to ask you respectfully if we could meet on October the 5th. No, not the 5th. October the 12th and the 26th in October, because again, the city administrator, the city secretary, Rebecca and I will all be out of town. We'll be at the TML annual conference. So if we could meet on the 12th and the 26th in October.
The 12th.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, the 12th is the day after our holiday, so we'll get everything out at the end of that week.
The 26th, no, because voting. There's early voting, so I'll be working as a election judge. So I can't do it.
Well, we could have a meeting, we could do the 19th, or we could do it with 4 council members present, depends on y'all. I don't know what we're gonna have, how pressing it's gonna be by the time we get to the end of October.
Well, let's tentatively schedule the 19th, and if we don't need it, then we'll.
Yeah, that'll work. Because the 26th is a Tuesday.
So what do you have now, the 12th and the
12th and
12th and
19th?
19th.
Jiminy
Okay.
crickets.
And hopefully on the 12th, I will be bringing to you a fellow named Mr. Guadalupe, who Roy Dugash met, and we talked about it today. He's on the Heritage Park. He wants to come. We're going to sit there and walk around it, take a look at it, because he made threw out there a number that just couldn't possibly be realistic, so way too inexpensive. So we'll make sure he
For
knows.
fixing the stones?
Yes, for fixing everything, to make sure that he knows what he's actually getting into before I bring it to you guys here at the council meeting. I don't know when that will be. That's Roy's gonna have,
Okay.
wow, I just went crazy. Mr. Sturgeon, the administrator, Mr. Guadalupe, well, try to get everybody, Cecil Sturgeon, try to get everybody together. Anyway, yes,
So I have a suggestion, why don't we do a regular meeting on the 12th, and then schedule the workshop on the 19th, and if we have some agenda items on a meeting that, if it's a light meeting or something, because we've been talking about all the items today about do a workshop. So why don't we just do it on the 19th and,
Especially if Dan could be here. If we needed to do something on the 380.
the
That's,
third,
that
yeah,
work
the
for you?
third
that's
Tuesday.
the third Tuesday, that's
Yeah.
the
so
19th.
the 19th,
that's
so the
what's good.
19th do a workshop
Okay.
with all the,
Good thinking, all the stuff that we went through.
I know we mentioned it here, but the last Frogs for Freedom, we're not on announcements yet, sorry.
Okay, okay. Any other agenda items? We'll gather all these up together and send them out to you, see if we've got anything. Okay, item B, announcements by council. Tony?
The biker rally is the first weekend in October, and that Saturday is the last annual Frogs for Freedom. It's a great event, and lots of fun things happen, and for good causes. So I highly encourage the community to come out for that. And there's a American Legion is doing a voting drive on the 25th, which is this coming Saturday.
Voter registration.
Voter registration drive. And Medina Lake Cajun Fest is also.
Oh, it is this Saturday, isn't it?
Oh, it
And
is?
fourth Sunday is Frontier Times Museum Jamboree. I had that on the calendar, can't.
Any other announcements? Yes,
Yeah,
Christine.
on the Biker Rallies of Texas, on the COVID vaccinations, he did post an update as to what the vaccinations are, when they will be, and there is a link to go register for your vaccination out there. So I don't know all the times or anything, but if you Facebook Biker Rallies of Texas, he does talk about it, and there's a link there to go register for your free vaccination.
Whether you're going to the rally or not.
Whether you
they're
go to the
doing
rally or not, it will be outside the
Gate.
registration gate. So it's free to all county residents and participants of the rally.
So it's one of the big biker guys give you the shot?
No, he's got registered nurses.
Oh, okay, I feel better.
Okay. All right, any other announcements? Anybody good?
Okay.
Motion to adjourn, council?
Oh, I do have an announcement.
Okay.
Tomorrow is the food distribution at Mansfield Park, starting at 9 o'clock in the morning. 10 o'clock in the morning, sorry, I have to be there before 9. At 10 o'clock in the morning, so people that need food, come get it.
Thank you. Jerry?
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
I move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Tony seconds. Discussion? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. 7:45, folks.